episode 103 of Mastering Local Marketing. How people judge your small business in the first 10 seconds. Before a customer speaks to you, before they understand your offer, and before price ever comes into play, a perception has already formed. In the first 10 seconds, people judge your business based on things you may not even notice anymore. The parking lot, the front door, the website load time, the greeting, the signage, the feeling of order or chaos. This episode breaks down why first impressions quietly decide outcomes, how small details signal trust or doubt, and why most businesses focus on messaging while ignoring the moments that matter most. We also explore how these 10 seconds shape everything that follows, from pricing tolerance to perceived professionalism. That's a lot to consider for the small business owner or small to medium-sized business owner or the marketing head to think about all those details that you just mentioned.
Yeah.
But it is human nature.
Yes, we are very judgmental. We take everything that's in our environment and form perceptions instantly, right? So perceptions are hard to change. When you think about, you walk into a business, you're tripping over things, somebody's yelling in the back, there's, two employees arguing. It's not a good taste, right? I don't know if I want to go back there. And I've talked countless times about different companies, different retail locations, and things that I no longer want to go to. Again, yesterday, I probably made a few people extremely upset. I was at Target returning some things for my wife. And when I walked in there, my son and I were returning the stuff. And by the time that we were done, there was a line of 40 people behind us. So I probably created a really negative perception last night. But you got to look at these types of things in terms of how people are going to be receiving the environment as they walk in. So again, I created some chaos yesterday, but in the same sense, maybe Target should have a few more people on the return line.
I'm just kind of curious what you were returning.
My daughter bought some shoes for some dance she's going to, and of course, she didn't know her size and didn't know. Long story.
So it was just one item?
No, it was, I think there was 5 different pairs of shoes, but they were various sizes.
Oh, so your wife just went in and bought a bunch of different sizes and then took the other ones back, right?
Yes.
That didn't fit. And that's not a bad idea. As a matter of fact, when Southwest, they don't do this as much anymore. Remember, they used to have the kind of cattle call. I think it ends January 1st, where now they're going to have assigned seats. But you could literally buy you're not really sure when you're going to go, and you don't want the prices to go up. So I've bought 3 flights before. Like if it's $99 now, and I know it's going to be $250 pretty soon. So I'd buy, all right, I'm going to buy Tuesday and Thursday and then Sunday. I'm not really sure when the wife has off of work. And then I realized that a lot of people do that.
Yeah.
And that kind of messes up their reservation system. And one of the reasons that they went to the assigned seats. But anyways,
you talk about Southwest, right? And one of the reasons that everybody hates that system is because people traveling with kids or whatever, people that forgot to check in. It's the chaos that happens, right? So you get that emotional struggle that these passengers are getting that are now C-48 and they're looking for a middle row seat in the back of the plane when they get on, and it creates this chaos. So there are people that love the system and there are people that hate the system, and it's funny now they're going back to the other side of it. But that creates such anxiety for people getting on those planes. I could care less, right? Like I'll sit at wherever we're all going to the same place. But if you're traveling with 4 or 5 individuals and you're spread out throughout the plane and you have somebody that doesn't like to fly and they have to sit by themselves, lots and lots of anxieties to where they may not necessarily want to fly Southwest at that point.
I wonder if that was a factor.
Sure.
Because personally, I liked what they call the cattle call, because for like $20 you could up your number. And, already as a frequent flyer or whatever, you're already getting a decent one. But you could spend, and then you would be able to go in like 10th on the plane or 20th on the plane. And I only wanted to sit in the exit row.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. But if you go onto United and want to just buy the exit row, it's like $200 more.
Yeah.
So I kind of like that, but I agree with you on feel, and that's what we're talking about is the feel of a business at this point. Is that I got a United credit card, so we wound up flying United a few times, and then since I have the credit card, it's like pretty easy to just buy flights and miles and get a decent seat. And so Alexis and I get there, and we go and we get on the plane, and she goes, "Wow, that was really, really kind of easy." And then we flew around a couple times, and we flew to Rome or one time, and she's like, "Wow, this is really how it should be done. Not that like running in and not knowing where you're going to sit." So now that I think about it, maybe it was a feel thing for Southwest. But now we try to go United just because it's easy. Here's where you're sitting. Go sit down. We're together. We don't have to worry about it. Hey, so tell us about what the parking lot test is.
Yeah, so as you're walking in, there is this dollar store that I drive by. I don't go to it, but I drive by it pretty consistently, and it's right across the border in Illinois. And it has had this flickering light for a year and a half, right? So imagine like a strobe light constantly going at night, and
driving you crazy.
They refuse to fix it, right? So I drive by this thing probably 3 times a week because driving my daughter to things. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, it's a light. And it's driving me nuts as I go by it every single time. Like I can't, and maybe you're right about me being a little bit judgmental, but think about this as I'm walking in a parking lot, and I'm going to walk you through a bunch of different scenarios here. The parking spaces are too narrow. Does that drive you nuts?
Oh, where did I go? And I'm like, this is bad. I don't like the way the line's really long and it's really narrow and your car's going to get dinged.
Yeah, right. So it's been windy lately, and I can't stand it when I get into a parking lot where it's really tight, it's windy. You're going to come out there. There's going to be a ding in your car. So you get out of your car. You're walking up towards toward the front door. Maybe there's carts or stuff kind of all over the place. I love the random cart that's going by in the wind, and you're just waiting for it to hit a car. As you're walking up, maybe the signage is half of it's working, half of it's not. You look at the sign and you can only pronounce half of the name of the company. Maybe there's just junk outside. Strong, maybe it's clearance stuff or whatever it is, but it's just kind of spread all outside. There's no rhyme or reason for any of it. You go to open the door, one of the doors is locked, right? It's broken, something along those lines. Maybe there's a broken window that they've had to board up, and you walk in there, and it's just the horrible experience that you've had walking into this, and you're thinking, okay, well, if it's this way outside, it's got to be the same inside or worse. And when you do that, if you're selling something that is kind of a higher priced item, what I've just described is probably a dollar store, right? I mean, you can envision it in your minds that you're walking in, there's stuff outside.
Right down the street here.
Right? So if you're trying to sell something of value or trying to create a customer experience, you've already blown it just in the parking lot because you're not paying attention. It's the weeds that are overgrown. It's the fact that you can't see the lines to park. There's all of these different things that go along with it. And I get it that most people want to spend most of their time on what's inside their business, but you also got to realize you've set expectations just from the parking lot.
So you're talking about the front door, about the feel as you're coming in. What about the greeting when people come in?
Right. One of the things that I tell everyone is as soon as somebody walks through that door, you must do some kind of welcome, right? Welcome them to the store. It makes them feel, like they're special coming in. There's nothing worse than walking into a store and nobody greets you, especially a small business where you keep working and somebody walks in, you feel ignored. And what with smaller businesses, we're trying to create that intimate relationship with them, right? So how are you today? Welcome to our store. Maybe tell them about a special promotion or something that you're doing, or maybe kind of guide them, tell them, okay, things here, this corner is this type of merchandise, and in the back is where we have all this other stuff. So you're really kind of trying to create that connection. But how many times have you walked into a store and just been completely ignored, or even worse, when you're trying to check out, you're still being ignored. They're off talking in the back about something, and you're trying to get out of there. So what I would say is welcome people as they walk in the door. It creates that connection. If you're trying to ignore people or you just don't want to be a people person, you probably shouldn't be in business in the first place. But just realize that it's very valuable to do that, because it's going to increase your sales, because people feel comfortable with you at that point and they'll stick around longer. If you're creating that kind of harsh environment, people don't want to be part of that. I mean, it's just human nature. We don't want to be in a conflict. So if you get that feeling like I'm already walking in, it feels weird just from the curb appeal, and now I walk in, nobody greets me, or worse yet, I'm hearing employees fighting over something, or they're saying how they hate to work at this store or whatever it may be. There's nothing worse, because you sit there and you just shake your head as a customer. You're just like, man, this place is falling apart.
So, and we talked a little bit about this, but if you come into a discount look, that affects your pricing.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt.
So, talk about that. I mean, if you're going to try to sell a higher priced piece and you're not putting the money into your store, that's going to be a hard sell.
It is, right? So there's, again, we talk about perceptions, and perceptions are formed by experiences. I was watching Mad Men the other day, and it was the cigarette companies, and they were talking about, again, a rerun of Mad Men, but they were talking about how all the cigarette companies are all selling, as they quoted, cancer sticks, right? And as they're going through, they're like, well, let's think about this differently. Let's, how do you make them? And they're going through the whole process. And one of the things that he said was, well, they're toasted. And he goes, okay. And he writes down toasted. And he goes, okay, well, that's our positioning statement. We're going to talk about, cigarettes that are toasted to enrich flavor and all this other stuff. And one of the guys goes, well, they're all toasted. And he goes, yes, but we're the only ones that are saying it. So we're going to take the perception. And it's the same idea here, right? So if you have 3 stores or 3 businesses that have different experiences, and one of them takes the upper hand here and creates this environment, and the other 2 just ignore it, when we look at price perception, I expect to pay more in the one that's paying attention than the 2 that are just throwing merchandise everywhere and not paying attention to who I am.
Go back to your home furnishings store. What did you like in the front?
So the number one thing that we did all the time was we created an environment, a welcoming environment. So as people walk through the door, we had a sandwich sign, like to put out on the sidewalk. And how most people do, like a chalk, some kind of like little fold triangle type thing. We created a gigantic chalkboard that I put in a really nice picture frame, and we did that on both sides. So it was immediately as you're walking up, you saw this elaborate sandwich board sign, and as you walk through the door, the number one thing that we always did was welcome to, it was called Simply Elegant. Welcome to Simply Elegant, and we would ask them how their day was. As they started to walk around, we would make sure that they had baskets available so they could take it with them. Baskets were at the front, baskets were at the middle, and baskets were at the back. So as they walk around, they could pick one of those up, and select as much as they wanted. We used to go through all the competitors and see what they were doing. And many times in a small business, you get ignored for some reason. I don't know. They're so busy behind the counter doing something that they just ignore you. And it was funny because we had this really great manager that worked the store, and everybody loved this guy. I mean, to this day, he's like a grandfather to me. Just an amazing individual. And everybody just wanted to talk to him because he had such great ideas, and he would literally come out from behind the counter and he would talk to you about what are you looking to do? Do you have pictures of what, the area that it's going in? Well, here's what we've done with it. And it was this expert commentary that was coming out of him, and it was very welcoming. So every single person that walked in knew this guy's name, which is weird in one sense, because a lot of people are like, well, I don't want people, I don't want to know everybody, but that's what it took. And everybody thought he owned the store because he was such an integral part of it. And we had a bunch of other people that would work with us. And out of all of the individuals, we had some that didn't quite work, right? They were a little more brash in the way they approached things, but everybody knew this guy. And we made sure that he was, quote unquote, the celebrity of the store as people walked in because they wanted to talk to him.
To go back to that feel, I'm sitting there thinking about, you're talking about the greeting and then you're talking about the feel. The greeting, now that I think about it, to me is a little bit annoying.
Okay.
I go to the bank. Welcome to Fifth Third. Welcome to Fifth Third. I think it's like they want you to know that they're watching you.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And then sometimes when, to finish this thought of, let's call him Carl, is that when you go to a place and they're kind of real familiar with you, then like a life insurance person, always the first name. There's all these cues that they do. Somehow it has to still remain genuine. Okay. How do you do that?
Well, it's funny. You mentioned Fifth Third, right? So I bank at Centir.
Welcome to Centir.
No, they go, welcome to Centir, Matt. How you been? Like, they know my name walking in there. And again, that comes down to training. It comes down to I'm not in the bank all the time. I'm in the bank maybe once every 3 weeks. But they know my name like as soon as I walk in there. And I used to joke, I'm like, why do they know my name? And it's great that they do, right? But again, we're trying to create a relationship with our customers.
Trying to create something genuine.
Genuine, right? So welcome to Centir, welcome to Fifth Third is great. But, Matt, how have you been? How are the kids? How is Ryan doing at school? Okay, that's just the next level. That means you care about me. Or, what we used to do at the store was, how did that picture work out that you bought last time? Is it above? Did you put it above the mantle? Like little things like that go a long way because it shows importance. If it's, hi, welcome to Simply Elegant, and they're like, hi, we bought that picture from you. Okay, which picture was it? There's a completely different experience there. Like, I sold you a $300 picture and I don't remember who you are. Versus,
yeah, you're talking about me.
Right?
I can go to places. Yeah, okay, sorry about that.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, the very personalized experience, the ability for people to remember who you are, it makes you feel special. So, again, we're talking about strobe lights in the parking lots and stuff laying all over the place and arguing employees and all of that versus a very meticulous plan of action to get people from point A to point B.
So finish this up with the relationship between the environment and the customer.
Yeah, so if you don't take care of your environment, you're going to attract a certain type of customer. If you create an environment that's engaging and welcoming and part of kind of like the family, your customer will become the family, right? So when you think of when I was defining who that parking lot that's a mess, the store's a mess, the employees are fighting, what do you think the relationship is with that customer? It's probably pretty negative, right? So there's no, like, they will toss you aside in a heartbeat for somewhere that they're going to be treated better. Now, you walk into a place, they know everything about you, right? They remember the last purchase, they're asking you about it. how are the kids? How's Ryan doing at school? That's hard to walk away from because you've built that relationship. So when you walk away from a company that knows all of that about you, it's almost like you're leaving a friend instead of a rundown building. So those are the two different things. So when you create an environment that's welcoming, when you pay attention to the environment, it creates a whole different dynamic. So if you want the customer that's transactional and not coming back, that's fine. Then don't pay attention to your environment. But if you want the customer, you've earned the customer, you've brought them in, they purchase from you, and you want to keep them coming back, pay attention to the environment that you've created.
He's Matt Hanson. I'm Jim Diedlow. We are coming at you from the WJOB Strachan Van Til Studios on the campus of Purdue Northwest. Please tell your other people that are in business and about our podcast. We want to be the most listened to podcast at the WJOB Podcast Network. We're almost there.
Whatever. You're holding on to old numbers. Why don't you just tell them it is the number one podcast?
It is right now, and we'll see how that goes in 2026. All right, guys. Until next time, see you later.